Justin of Vintage55 here again. Another episode of Vintage55 Garage. We did the van last week. I'm going to show you the newest addition. Nope, scratch that. Second newest addition to our stable, which is 56 Lincoln Premier. This is my favorite. This is my favorite car right now, and it was my dream car for about a week before I got it. To be honest, it wasn't even really on my radar as a car, like I said, until about a week before I got it. Or not this one, but I'll get to that. I saw an ad on Craigslist and suddenly wanted one really bad. I always wanted a big old land yacht, caddy or something, but we have all Ford, and I didn't want to get a GM product, but two, I know how to work on Fords. So anyway, I sold my motorcycle that I built at the time and bought, not this one, I bought a yellow one down in San Diego that was running okay, leaking a lot, and rusted a lot. Anyway, I sold the bike, went and bought the Lincoln down in San Diego, drove it all the way back up, which they warned me against. It also happened to be pouring rain and the wipers didn't work, so I had my head out the window the whole way home. But that's just another adventure in the lives of the Zerwick family. But anyway, and the headlights were on and off the whole way home because it had a bad dimmer switch. Anyway, 56 Lincoln Premier. It is the first year after the famous road race Lincolns that ended in 55, which were a bit dated in styling from Lincoln, but had a very, very high performance engine, running gear, everything that you'd want in a race car. And so they took them down to Baja and did road rallies with them and just dominated for a couple years. And so this came with that same engine that was in the famous road rally Lincolns, road race Lincolns, but they extended the car to bring it up to 50 styling. They extended the car like 2 feet and like a foot wider, and basically made it a big old boat. And that's where you got 56 Lincoln. They made this body style from 56, 57, 2 years only. The Capri and the Premier were the two trim levels. They're basically the same. You paid like another $500 for basically a badge. And then there was also a Continental that year, Mark II, but that's a totally different thing. It's a sports car, two-seater. I'm not even going to talk about that. But so 56 was the first year, real sleek, real understated styling, especially for the time. Not huge fins, but good fins. 57, they actually tacked bigger fins on just because they needed to change something. It won design awards from a couple different engineering and design societies. It was one of the first cars to win a couple of those awards just because the styling was so critically acclaimed at the time. The 56 Lincoln was actually built on a show car, or built off of a show car, a dream car that Ford came up with. You may see a couple things familiar in this and not know where to place them, and that's because it shares a lineage with the original 60s Batmobile. That's a really cool story, which I guess this is the place to tell it. So there was a dream car before the Lincoln 56 Lincoln came out. It was called the Futura, not to be confused with the Falcon Futura. It was called the Futura, and had the hooded lamps, kind of the same, what's called waterfall styling on the sides, body line, a couple other things, and then there was another car called the XM300, I believe, was a Mercury dream car, and they took basically half of that car and half of that car, those two one-of-a-kind prototype cars, put them together, made it nicer looking, and turned it into Lincoln. So that dream car, the Futura, made the circuits for a couple years, and then once this came out, that looked really dated. It didn't look like a dream car anymore because it looked like a Lincoln. So they put it in a movie. They painted it red. It was in some movie, just a guest spot in a movie. And then it kind of disappeared for a couple years. And then George Barris, very famous customizer out here in Southern California, passed away. But back then he was making Hollywood cars, which is what he actually ultimately became more famous for. He made the Monkeymobile, the Munsters car, and the original Batmobile. The original Batmobile, they gave him a time crunch and he couldn't make what he wanted to make in time. So what he did was he actually approached Ford and bought the Futura dream car that was kind of sitting collecting mothballs in the back of a warehouse. He bought it for $1 from Ford, with the understanding that, you know, he would credit them for it. So anyway, he bought the dream car from them, the Futura dream car, and what he did was he just took panels off, took a bunch of stuff off, put a bubble top on it, put a bunch of stuff on it, and turned it into what you would see as the Batmobile, the original one. So go ahead and Google a picture of the Lincoln Futura, which is the dream car that this was based off of, and that is the father of both the 56 Lincoln and the original Batmobile. So you'll see a lot of things in common. It's kind of cool, kind of a cool story. So anyway, the original dream car Futura is still around, just as a Batmobile, and there's been a couple clones of the original dream car that have made since then. Anyway, back to the Lincoln. So you know where it came from. The designer actually credits a shark that he saw scuba diving in the Caribbean for the design of this. He was working on it and then came back to the design lab after a vacation and started drawing out all these kind of like shark shapes and manta ray shapes, which you can honestly see in this. So that's kind of neat. So like I said, it grew longer, grew wider to keep up with the trends at the time. Got a wraparound windshield, which it didn't have in 55, keep up with the times, etc. So let's talk about this specific Lincoln. So the one I got before was junk. I mean, my friend that bought it off me did something really cool with it, but it wouldn't have worked for this. Anyway, I found this not too long after I bought the other one out in Apple Valley, sitting in a field. It had been parked there for 40 years. Came from Michigan. The guy drove across the country and parked it there. I saw it, price was good, I had to have it. It was in great condition. All this chrome is the original chrome, hasn't been re-chromed. This paint is actually the original paint that's been buffed out, other than a couple dull spots where I've done metal work. It's just spray paint over it right now. Anyway, so when I got it, all I did was buff it, polish it, but it wouldn't start. Motor was froze. Had a lot of issues, and I decided I wasn't going to be rebuilding that engine because it was just too hard to find parts. So we put a different powertrain in this. I'll come back to that though. So you can see the big old fish mouth grill, real cool, lots of different parts in it. Only single headlights on each side. 57 they went to double. In 56 they were double or quad headlights were only legal in half the states. So a lot of the automakers opted to just keep with single on each side just to be safe and only have to make one. But some automakers actually put out two models of the same car, one that had quad headlights and one that had dual, just so that the people in the states where it was legal could buy quad headlights because it was such a big trend at the time. Not Lincoln. My wheels are bias plies, big old white walls as big as you can get. These are the thickest white walls that you can find. The hubcaps on them originally would have been wheel covers, little stars in the middle. They're very expensive. You can still find them around, but I didn't want them. I wanted to go a little bit custom, just touches so nobody knew what this was. So I actually took the centers from 1960 Lincoln Continentals, which go on 14-inch rims, but these are 15-inch rims, and so I welded them into an Oldsmobile 15-inch hubcap, the centers, and so it all goes together. I think they look really good on the car. I gotta finish them still. I'm gonna re-chrome them, but just a big simple side spear for that. It originally, when I got it, had a mirror, just a side mirror right here, mounted. It had no stock mirror, so when you went to the Lincoln Ford dealership, Lincoln Mercury dealership, you could pick a mirror and they bolted on. So they could come with 4 different types of mirrors. It's just whatever the dealer had. I didn't like it. You couldn't even see it from the inside, so I got rid of that, shaved it, filled it. And then I found this at a yard sale one time. It has the same body line, sharp corner line. It fits perfect in here, and it goosenecks around just right so you can actually see it, and it looks really good. It looks like it's meant for this thing. Got it for $1.50. I was so happy when I found that. I still don't know what it's off of though. I think it's off of Packard or something. I don't know. Anyway, this little logo would be different based on your trim model. And it originally had little badges right here that said Premier. This was the higher level trim. I took those off. Back, you have a lot of cool features on the back. You can really see that it's a mid-50s car. These outlet ports are originally where the exhaust would come out. They were run through there so that the exhaust would come out the back here, but they quickly learned that all your chrome would start peeling really quick. So there's actually a block-off plate in here. It's painted red, and that's a factory option. That's a thing they added back in the 50s just so it looks like a rocket port still, but doesn't eat your chrome. And you see I relocated them down there. Original 56 plates. I found those in a thrift store up in Julian, or down in Julian, for 20 bucks a piece. I couldn't run them to see if they were clear at the time because I was out of cell service. Bought them for 20 bucks a piece anyway for the pair. Sure enough, they were clear. Got them put on my car. 56 would have had a knight's head and like a coat of arms where you flip up the knight head and you can put your key in for the trunk. I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of corny. This is the 57 trunk piece, and I built the whole car's styling cues around this trunk piece. It took me a year and a half to find it. I still got to re-chrome it, but I fit it into the 56 trunk so that it works and everything. But I named the car the Starflight, so you'll see lots of starburst cues around it. This being the main one that I based it off of. Speaking of the trunk, gas fills behind the license plate. Trunk key is behind the emblem, and you can see the size of this trunk, which I got the original bed liner in there, or trunk liner in there still. The size of this trunk, you could fit anything, you know. Back then you'd sneak, 4 of your buddies in there to go to the drive-in, but nowadays I can fit the whole grocery store in there. I've put an appliance dolly straight in there and it fits fine. Fold-up tables fits fine. Everything fits fine in here. It's huge. And it actually has the original jacking instructions still stuck up on the hood of the or the lid of the trunk for the bumper jack that came with it that I still have as well, which is kind of neat. So that's the exterior of the car. If you come to the inside, you can take a look. I have all new interior, headliner, seats, I got all that done. You see the starburst over there, that's an altered version of what would have been on the outside quarter panel originally. I cut them down, filled them, recast them, and they're on all my door panels. Going along with the Starflight theme, which would have been the horn button as well. This one's actually original though. And you can see my Starflight emblem that I took I think the is off of a Buick of something, and the Starflight is actually a motorboat engine from the 60s. So anyway, I got them chromed to match and put them on the dash. Padded dash would have been a safety feature, even though it's about a 1/4 inch of foam. Same thing with this deep dish steering wheel. It's supposed to break off when you hit it. It won't, but that's what this is meant for. The horn, obviously, big old horn ring. Shifter up here, my signal thing is missing. Big old wide dash. Big old wide back seat with a cigarette lighter even on the back seat and an ashtray on the back seat, so all the kiddos can light up on their way to McDonald's, I guess. But you can see there's part of a car seat back there for my kiddo who doesn't smoke. And the cool thing about this car, if you look at the door, this looks like a window crank. It's not. It's your door release mechanism, which leaves you to go, where's the window crank? There isn't one. This is 1956, but this is power everything. It has power brakes, power steering, power seat, and it has power windows. So the actual windows are all controlled. I gotta lube them up, obviously. They're all controlled off of your switches. Side note, that squeakiness is sand that's still in the gutters. I'm finding it in little pockets all over this car. All the 30 years of sitting out in the desert. It's funny because the seats look beautiful, they're brand new, and then you close the door and a bunch of sand, 30-year-old sand falls out. It's kind of a juxtaposed thing, but anyway, yeah, so power everything in 56, big deal. You could actually get this with air conditioning too. This one did not have it, but you would tell that from little air inlet blisters that would be on the sides, and then there's two big clear tubes that actually would come from the trunk up into the ceiling and down out the sides like an aircraft, like if you're in an airline and the air comes down on you, it would have run the same way with this. So, engine. It would have originally had a 368 Lincoln Y block, 2-year motor for Lincoln. They carried it over, changed some things to Ford for a truck motor. Needless to say, you can't really find parts for it. So, this is a 1971 Ford truck motor. It's a 360, which is in this FE family, which is 352, 360, 390, and it's got a C6 transmission. Came out of a running 1971 F100. I rebuilt the transmission, didn't rebuild the engine like I should have. I just didn't have the money at the time. Did some stuff on it, replaced some things and changed some parts. But like I said, didn't have the money at the time. I did not do the engine swap on this. My friend Matt at Anaheim Rod and Custom did. Great guy, and they run a fantastic shop. They dropped this in, looks like it was meant to be in there. The stock exhaust manifolds clear the A-arms, clear the steering box, they clear everything like it was meant to be. And this is actually the original 56 radiator. You can see the fan clears it perfect. We just had to trim these about an inch. And actually the hoses even line up perfectly with the 1971 FE block. So, like I said, it looks like it was meant to be. And then the power steering pump, we just changed the lines to adapt to the original 56 steering. So as far as a complete powertrain swap, it didn't fight, which was good. So anyway, it does the trick. I'm gonna have to take it out and rebuild it, just because it's real tired. But it's in there, and it's doing the job real good. The goal for finishing this, when I pulled it out of that field a year ago, was to get it running and driving and able to take our daughter, our first baby, home from the hospital at the end of July. And I made it, barely. It was leaking all over the place and making weird noises, but it had upholstery, it had a car seat in it, had seat belts, and it was driving down the road. So I got to bring home my baby in style. But so that was my deadline, and I made it. But this is my 56 Lincoln, and it's getting there. It's almost done, but just needs a paint job and an engine rebuild and a million other things. But anyway, thanks for taking a look at it with me, and let me know if there's any other cars around that you'd like me to spotlight. I'll be doing the rest of ours, and probably a couple of my friends as well. Anyway, Justin, thank you very much, V55 Garage.